If you become the opposite of what you always were, you have to change your name. It's become a trend in America these days, morphing into something completely different from what you were founded as, but still pretending you're the old you.
Finally, new rule, there's nothing wrong with not having an opinion on something, especially if you don't know what the f*** you're talking about. And if you're getting your facts from TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, I don't want to hear your hot take on asymmetrical warfare, because there's a term for someone who gets their news from Facebook. Mom.
Bill Maher has launched his attack on woke brands, calling them out for their weak strategies and exposing why it's all falling apart. The comedy firebrand didn't censor himself as he laid bare why many of these companies are imploding. The takedown was brutal, direct, and unfiltered. So smash the subscribe button and begin.
TLC stands for the Learning Channel. They used to have shows like Learn to Read and Ready, Set, Learn. Here's some of their present and recent offerings. Cake Boss, Gypsy Sisters, Toddlers and Tiaras, Extreme Couponing, What Not to Wear, My Teen is Pregnant and So Am I. 1,000-Pound Sisters and Alaskan Women Looking for Love. And that's just the shows about the Palins.
Maher started off by calling out woke TV show producers for abandoning their core mission and drifting into ideological territory that has absolutely nothing to do with their original branding. According to him, instead of focusing on compelling storytelling, sharp writing, and entertainment value, many producers have chosen to chase political trends they barely understand. He acknowledged that some of these shows may be doing this out of desperation, fearing irrelevance, or outright extinction in an increasingly competitive media landscape. But Maher argued that panic-driven pandering is not evolution, it's capitulation. True growth, he said, comes from refining what made a show successful in the first place, not hijacking it with forced messaging. Rather than injecting woke narratives to stay afloat, these producers could modernize within their own niche, take creative risks, and respect their audience's intelligence. By prioritizing ideology over authenticity, Maher warned, television isn't becoming more progressive, it's becoming more predictable, disconnected, and ultimately disposable.
The A in A&E stands for arts. Seriously, they used to show the symphony. Now they have Deep Fried Dynasty, Hoarders, Storage Wars, Ghost Hunters, and Psychic Kids. You know, for people who find the Learning Channel too intellectual. The History Channel has no history, and MTV has no music. I'm just saying, you can buy a petting zoo and turn it into a bondage dungeon, but you gotta change the sign.
Maher went after A&E for abandoning the very meaning behind its name, arguing that the network sacrificed the arts in a desperate attempt to chase broader, trend-driven programming. He pointed out that instead of honoring its original mission, celebrating creativity, culture, and artistic expression, the channel has drifted toward content designed to appeal to mass-market tastes. Maher acknowledged that America has a wide and diverse audience, each with different preferences and viewing habits, but he stressed that not every network needs to cater to everyone. Even if the audience for pure art, history, and creative storytelling isn't massive, those viewers still matter. They deserve a dedicated platform that respects their interests rather than pushing them aside for ratings. By abandoning its niche, Maher argued, A&E didn't expand its reach, it diluted its identity. In trying to please everybody, the network ultimately served nobody, losing both artistic credibility and loyal viewers in the process.
For decades, Playboy was the go-to whack-off magazine for heterosexual men, with reviews of movies that came out 6 months ago and a lot of information about stereos. And fiction by Kurt Vonnegut. But mostly the masturbation thing, which was facilitated by pictures of women naked. Well, in 2016, Playboy did away with the nudity. They took the out of Playboy. It's like taking the cats out of Cat Fancy. Last year, Playboy put a gay man on the cover, which I guess we're supposed to celebrate, even though it was 2021 and there's already a dozen magazines for gay guys, 13 if you count Martha Stewart Living.
Playboy magazine also fell under Maher's microscope as he criticized the brand for abandoning the very formula that built its fame, influence, and financial success. According to Maher, Playboy didn't simply evolve with the times, it panicked and bowed to pressure from woke activists, discarding its identity in an attempt to appear morally fashionable. What followed, he argued, was entirely predictable. The magazine lost its cultural relevance, confused its core audience, and offered nothing distinctive to attract a new one. By rejecting what made it unique, Playboy became just another bland publication in an already crowded media space. Maher pointed out that this abrupt ideological pivot didn't revive the brand or win public approval. Instead, sales plummeted, investor confidence dropped, and the company's stock took a sharp nosedive. In trying to please critics who never supported the brand to begin with, Playboy sacrificed its loyal base and paid the price for it.
59% of consumers now will buy a product or boycott a product based solely on the political stance a company takes. Gen Z consumers need to know if their spermicide condemns cockfighting. Disney didn't want to get into a big pissing match with Ron DeSantis about grade school, but its employees sure did, so they had to. Now one side thinks Disney said too much, the other thinks it didn't say enough. We see this pattern over and over. We saw it with Bud Light when they did ads with a trans influencer, and MAGA Nation thought it was a plot to use beer to turn them gay.
Maher is right. The political landscape in America has become so deeply polarized that even major brands now operate on a cultural minefield. One wrong message, one poorly timed statement, and a company can find itself facing instant backlash, viral outrage, and organized boycotts. In this environment, brands are no longer judged solely on the quality of their products, but on perceived political loyalty. That reality makes clarity of identity more important than ever. Maher argued that companies do the most damage to themselves when they abandon what they stand for and wander into ideological battles that offer no real upside. Political posturing rarely builds trust, but it can easily destroy it. Staying true to a brand's core mission, values, and audience is not outdated. It's essential. When businesses chase trends instead of authenticity, they lose credibility from all sides. In a divided culture, focus isn't weakness, it's survival.
Do we really need LGBT representation in Playboy? There's a transgender teenager on every show on television except reruns of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. The same thing is going on with the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, which now celebrates all kind of bodies except, the good kind.
You see, one of the main reasons these brands built massive customer bases in the first place was because they offered a specific product, identity, or message that people genuinely connected with. Consumers didn't support them randomly. They followed in droves because something about the brand excited them, inspired loyalty, or delivered consistent value. That clear focus created trust, recognition, and long-term engagement. But the moment these companies chose to abandon their core messaging, the very reason people supported them in the first place, everything began to unravel. Instead of strengthening what worked, they replaced it with vague slogans and shifting narratives that felt unfamiliar and forced. Loyal customers no longer recognized the brands they once loved. As that connection disappeared, so did the following. Maher's point was simple but brutal. Audiences don't leave because brands fail to change. They leave because brands forget who they are. When identity is sacrificed, loyalty collapses right along with it.
Was it really such a crime against humanity to have one magazine once a year that was about finding creative ways for supermodels to hide their holes? Now it looks like it's edited by the Huffington Post. Jeez, you have every other magazine. Do you hate Dad that much? If he can't rub one out in the garage, what is he supposed to do in there? Actually sand something? This is not progress. You haven't reformed the softcore gentleman masturbator. You've driven him to creepy.com.
Interestingly, these changes were supposedly introduced to educate, enlighten, and reshape the audience's thinking, but the experiment backfired badly. Instead of feeling informed or inspired, viewers felt lectured, talked down to, and emotionally disconnected from the content they once enjoyed. The messaging came across as forced rather than organic, turning entertainment into instruction manuals no one asked for. As a result, audiences didn't become more engaged, they tuned out. Worse still, many were pushed toward unconventional and alternative sources to satisfy their interests, curiosity, and unmet desires. Platforms outside the mainstream stepped in to provide what traditional media no longer would: authenticity, entertainment, and open conversation. Maher argued that this unintended consequence made the situation even worse. By abandoning balance and creativity, these brands didn't guide public taste, they fractured it. Instead of shaping culture responsibly, they drove audiences away, ceding influence to voices operating completely beyond their control.
Back in the 90s, Michael Jordan famously said he stayed out of politics because, quote, Republicans buy sneakers too. And then Kanye said, and don't forget Nazis. But the days when someone could say that and keep their opinions to themselves, those days are gone. Big Brother says that having no opinion is not an option anymore. You must participate in this online circle jerk, or you will be seen as an insensitive prick who's single-handedly obstructing much-needed progress in the world. Did you post a black square? No? Well, that's why there's still racism.
Maher pointed to Michael Jordan as an example of a far more practical and disciplined approach, noting how the basketball legend famously chose to stay out of politics in order to protect and grow his brand. Jordan wasn't driven by political ideologies or philosophical crusades. He was focused on business, performance, and building something that could resonate with everyone. By refusing to take partisan sides, he allowed his brand to transcend divisions and reach a global audience. Maher argued that this decision wasn't cowardice, but clarity. Jordan understood that not every platform needs to double as a political megaphone. Sometimes restraint is wisdom. In a culture obsessed with turning every product, celebrity, and conversation into a political statement, Maher suggested there's value in neutrality. Businesses exist to serve customers, not lecture them. Not everything must be politicized. When entertainment, sports, and commerce are allowed to simply be what they are, they often unite people far more effectively than ideology ever could.
Valentine's Day, which was always a day to celebrate coupledom. It wasn't complicated. Flowers, chocolates. And yet, every year now, I more and more hear this idea that Valentine's Day is also a day to celebrate being alone. Be your own Valentine. That's right, on the one day was specifically set aside to honor bonding between two people. Don't do that. Make it about the opposite of that. Be your own Valentine. Get your own cheap, stale chocolates at CVS. You don't even need to have with someone else. Yourself.
Maher also decried how woke activism, in his view, has managed to strip Valentine's Day of its original meaning by reframing it as a celebration of individuality rather than a day set aside for couples and romance. He argued that it wasn't enough to dismantle TV shows and magazines. Now even Valentine's Day had to be re-engineered. According to Maher, this shift doesn't promote inclusion, it quietly fuels isolation. When romance is discouraged or mocked, single people are less likely to go out, socialize, or take the risk of finding their own Valentine. The cultural message becomes one of retreat rather than connection. Maher warned that this trend contributes to loneliness and depression, especially among young people. The classic tradition of asking someone out, facing rejection, and learning how to court with confidence is slowly fading. In its place, he argued, is a generation of men increasingly fearful, hesitant, and unsure how to pursue genuine romantic relationships.
The Boy Scouts of America used to be an organization for boys because girls have cooties. But now the Boy Scouts accept girls, which I guess is inclusive, but it ignores the very important need for boys to sometimes get together as boys to fart in a sleeping bag and laugh at that, which girls don't find funny. It also ignores the fact that there has always also been a scout troop for girls. You may have heard of it, the Girl Scouts.
Maher found it striking how the woke movement, in his view, has seeped into nearly every corner of society, leaving disruption in its wake. He argued that institutions once built with clear purposes are now being reshaped beyond recognition. As an example, he pointed to the Boy Scouts, which now includes girls, even though the Girl Scouts already exist. And even if they didn't, Maher questioned what would truly prevent the creation of a separate organization designed specifically for them. To him, the issue isn't inclusion, but the erosion of distinction. When every space must serve everyone, he argued, those spaces lose their meaning altogether. Maher suggested that this relentless push ignores tradition, structure, and choice in favor of ideological uniformity. Not everything needs to be merged or reinvented. Some institutions can coexist side by side without conflict. At times, he concluded, the logic driving these changes feels so extreme that it borders on the unbelievable. And this brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, then hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.